I was talking to somebody uh, here in Europe, and it was a casual talk while we were driving back from a place. And as we were like talking about what we as human beings have done to this planet in the last 100 years, in terms of population, we are like four times over in 100 years. And in terms of per capita consumption, uh, it can be easily like 1000 times, like in terms of the resources that we are using and having access to, compared to what it was like 100 years before. So four times the population with over 1000 times of per capita consumption. The numbers were mind-boggling, and the person I was talking to was, let's stop this discussion. It's really horrible to think about it and move further about it. And this is actually the reality with almost over 99% of the people on this world. Do you know this? Yeah, we really feel over 99% of the people, even 99.999% of the people on this planet really feel helpless about such magnificent, like cosmic problems. So the problems of cosmic scale, we feel really like overwhelming and helpless about it, and so we just want to avoid facing it, or avoid confronting it. And because we feel so tiny about it, like we have created such a huge problem without even we knowing about it. Like it was not a one day's creation of this problem, right? This problem has somehow, the because of so many unconscious actions that we human beings have done on this planet, it has created a compounding effect, and then has grown into a magnificent and a cosmic scale of a problem that we ourselves are afraid to confront it. So this is the reality that we are, so we cannot ignore it. So, but is it okay just to avoid keeping it, like putting the problem under the carpet, or keeping it like subdued, or as if behaving like there is no such a problem and somehow moving on? Is it going to be a solution really? No, it's absolutely not, because it's only going to become an even more bigger problem. It's going to be multiplied further and then come back to us, because we are part of this planet, part of this cosmos. So we'll be, it's not just, though the problem have been created by us, the human beings, but every other life on this planet is bearing the fruits of this problem, bearing has to go through the sufferings of all that we have done, right? So how can we escape? We as humans, so definitely we cannot escape. But is pushing it away, like avoid talking about it, because the facts are horrible really. So but is not confronting it and facing it, is it a solution? No, it's not a solution. But I can very much understand how a common citizen on the planet can feel like when we have to confront about this problem. The size of the problem is humongous really. Yeah. And what we have done, and the important thing, coming to the important thing about it, is that, for example, let's take plastic is a problem right now. So it's a cosmic problem right now, right from the oceans to the air to the soil to everywhere there is plastic. And the problem is we have moved to a point where that we cannot reverse whatever impacts that we have done because of the plastic. Yeah, it looks like almost impossible to do away with whatever, like reverse whatever we have done in terms of spoiling the environment, soil and air and water and everything, the aquatic life and everything. With the plastics, we may not be able to reverse it at this point of time, but the important thing is right now, so this way it is like more damage, more problems, and more more plastics into the environment, more aquatic life and soil, and the microplastics are going to be in the landfills and everything. So this way we go, if we don't want to confront it, if we don't want to face it and start addressing it, then we are moving towards this side, which is like even more dangerous for the coming generations. Like we may escape, like in the next 10, 20, 30 years, whatever you have to live, you may escape, but what about your children's? So if we go this way, it is even more dangerous, more complicated, more compounding the problem is. So we are at this juncture. So the only thing that we need to decide right now and start thinking and start taking small little actions, and then which can eventually become a ripple effect and grow into a bigger action, is that do we move this way or do we move this way? From this point onwards, you have this choice, you have this privilege to like look at your steps, like in your life, like are we moving like this towards a problem, increasing the problems, or we becoming a part of the problem more and more, or we are trying to do, even though the steps may be very little simple, even if it is not a great movement this way, even if it is like a kind of able to hold it where we are and try to make little steps, this can really matter, because the way we are going this way, the artificial living, and it is taking a tremendous pace. It was already like what has not happened over the last 10,000 years just happened in the last 200 years or so, right? So the rate at which things have happened in the last 200 years, especially the last 50 years, is already too exponential, and we cannot, it goes, there is a lot more what is happening with the artificial intelligence and everything. It seems like what has happened, then we have to say like what has not happened since the beginning of whatever, life on this planet over a few million years to this date can happen in just next decade or so. So that is the kind of rate of evolution, or the rate of evolution of the problems, and the exponential rate at which the problems can compound and grow. So it is a very important time that a major part of the human population come awake to this fact and start at least listening to it and face it, and then start taking little actions so that we are not en masse driving towards this disaster, and then all of us fall down, crackle down, and become a part of a large disaster on this planet. So it is my wish and intention that to reach out at least 1 billion people on this planet, and bring at least this much, that you can spend at least 21 days in a year as close as possible to the nature, arranging your lives as close as possible to the nature. So two of the ground rules that principles or the rules that I would like to keep it as, what is it living as close as possible to the nature? It is the two things that really made our artificial living progress at an exponential rate in the last century or so, is that what are those two things? The two things is, one is the petroleum and the other thing is the electricity. Imagine a world without these two things. So the world would still be moving at a very slower pace of evolution, right? Like that's why I say 10,000 years of evolution just happened in like a couple of hundred years. The rate at which it has evolved being in the 10,000 years, it just happened. The rate and the kind of evolution that has happened, it's too much. So, and imagine with artificial intelligence and all the technologies and everything, and the rate at which we are going today, and if that goes exponential by like 1,000 times or over, so what's going to happen? So it is very, very important that so the ground principles are these, like if we can live naturally as close as possible to the nature, at least without these two elements, without petroleum and anything that has come out of petroleum, we keep away from it, and the electricity. So can you imagine what are all things that you will not have? So So we don't have to jump into such okay, from wherever you are, whatever lifestyle you are, yeah, we can continue that. But if we can like aspire for a certain number of like 3 weeks in a year like this, then we can also look at a process like how we can move to such a level step by step in a 7-step process I have devised, where like for example, I consider myself as a average world citizen, so not too rich, not too poor, or not too much traveling, or not too much local living. So in every way, like I consider myself as a average world citizen, like not a part of the two extremes, but having some exposure about the two extremes and the entire bandwidth. So here I am taking myself as an example and looking at like I travel across the world for my work, and I travel domestically in my country in India, also for work as well as for leisure. And yeah, so much of travel and work, and at the same time I realize the importance of like taking such steps that you also consciously uh, choose to move closer to nature in your life. So it's possible that, so I'm living in metropolitan cities, cosmopolitan cities like in New York or San Francisco or Tokyo or wherever you may be. It is still possible, I say. So the most important thing that I feel is when I am interacting with the high profile peoples or the corporates, and what they feel is kind of like they kind of kind of I'll choose to ignore, like there is no such thing as like this kind of a problem, as if they started to behave like such a thing is not existent, the environmental problems or the population problems, as if it is not existent. So there is a category of people who who chose to feel like Donald Trump is famous for that, he like negated almost like the entire action towards the climate change and everything, like as if it is not existence at all. So he's a big representation of that mass of people that who thinks that almost this kind of problem is non-existent. Yeah, maybe they're so insulated or so like get so much immunity from the outside situation that they are not out facing the actual things that is happening. Yeah. And yeah, and also there's a second category of people where, like I said, I was in conversation with a person here in the Europe, and he was like want to put down the talk just because it is too overwhelming and like too horrible to even talk about it. So this is a large percentage of people that they know there is a problem, but they feel helpless about it. So yeah, this is a group of people who can definitely make a big impact, and just by just holding your place wherever you are, and if you can take little steps from wherever you are, not towards contributing more towards a problem in more towards the solution. So, and here we can take a look at a 7-step process, which is like whichever, like whatever your lifestyle, whether it's a cosmopolitan or metropolitan or in a town, municipality, or in a small village or a rural area, still you can how to take your baby steps towards natural living. That will be the first way to do it, and we will have like 7 steps here. So at a midpoint on the 4th step, from until the 4th step, I think it is not going to demand much about your change in the lifestyle or so. So it's about like the simple practices that you can realign towards natural living, that will look into these first 3 steps. And as we grow and mature and understand the importance and the impacts, as you see the kind of impact with the baby steps that you're taking, and the children's steps that you're going to take, and the adolescent steps that you're going to take towards a natural living. So the first 3 steps or called the baby steps to natural living, the children's of natural living, and the adolescence of natural living. So what kind of steps that we can take will land you in a place of the fourth step. So it is your adulthood, where you are matured enough to take conscious decisions in your life. How, like which way you want to go, whether you want to keep it moderate and or you want to become more and more inclined towards natural living and completely reorganize your life. So this is decision making point, the fourth step. So from then onwards, if you are more and more inclined, so at the fourth step, so this much we are expecting, we want to reach in the fourth step. At least you are able to spend at least 21 days in a year in the local neighborhood, in a place where without electricity, you don't have to far away places to enjoy this simple nature things, like living without the petroleum and electricity. So at least 3 weeks in a year, if we can commit ourselves to come closer to the nature. So from your current lifestyle and 21 days, this 21 days, 3 weeks, or it can be split into like 3 days and 7 times in a year. So like you can add up to your weekends, 1 day and 3 days you go off, out of the petroleum and electricity, and see how life is. Then you realize, from wherever you are to this fourth step itself, such a transformation is going to happen within your own physiology and psychology and the environment around and the family around and the community around. You will see so much of a difference that it's so rejuvenating. The difference is going to be so rejuvenating that you want more of it. Yeah. And let's see, if 1 billion people take up to this cause, then we can very much see a tremendous change in whichever way the world is going towards right now. So it's like a huge ship moving in a direction. The economic, it's driven by the economic engine. Today, the businesses of the world drives this ship of the human lives on this planet, and that determines every other life on this planet, how they are experiencing life on this planet. So, but our effort is to turn around the ship, but it is not wise thing to do, to turn around all of a sudden such a huge, humongous ship that is moving at a tremendous speed. To turn around it will be foolish to turn around. But if we hold 1 degree turn, if we just hold 1 degree turn as a people of this planet, we manage to make an impact, at least 1 degree impact to this big ship of moving at a tremendous speed, with the businesses and the economic engine driving it in a direction which is going towards the disaster. So if we can make 1 degree impact, it can avoid a big disaster over a time. If we hold this impact 1 degree long enough, then it is going to turn around the problems over a period of time. Yeah, this is going to happen. And I'm very thankful for this insight that I got from Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev, that the amount of problem, there are a lot of activists, natural activists, conservationists they call, who are like trying to fight against the businesses and the ways of life that right now the human beings are going through. So the fighting against, or like making any kind of protest or things like that, talking against it is not just the solution. We need to like provide steps, like to make little steps in their life to move consciously from wherever they are towards the natural living. So that is the only way. It's not about just making a lot of protest on the streets or just shouting, or like picking up a fight with some people on the media or something like that. It's not going to work. Yeah. And it is only like creating a ruckus in the society. So we don't want to do that. So we have to, whatever we need to do, we have to consciously take. We can only do whatever we can do from wherever we are. We cannot jump all the way into some other place, some other world. So we have to take one step by step from wherever we are right now. And let's bring another thing for the discussion today is about uh, v- we have it has become very common for somebody whenever there is some good action or the very much needed action of the time, what we're talking right now, the importance of the human beings to move towards more and more closer to nature, about the natural living. Yeah, for example, when I'm talking about it, there may be questions from people. So this has been always the problem. Like if somebody is into the problem, people expect they cannot talk about the problem or its solutions or its impacts, or you know they expect the purity, some pure being from somewhere to come and then talk about the problems and solutions. No, that is not that's not really a good way actually, but because it's only in the fantasy or in your imagination such things happens. But the fact is that more and more the people who are involved into the problem, for example, when I talk about the problem, I'm using the gadgets and the technologies and the lights and everything. But what I wish, I don't, the thing is about not to use artificial lights. But right now, I have to use the artificial lights to even communicate to you. The technology even to communicate to you. The satellites and everything are involved right now in this moment. But why am I talking about the natural living? So if somebody is having such kind of questions, it is foolish, I would say, because we can only start from wherever we are. And yeah, of course, I said I'm an average world citizen, so I travel, use planes or airplanes, and travel and burn out carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And this is where the reality is, and I'm confronting the reality and willing to do something about it. And that is the angle of view that we want people to have. Take any kind of problem in this planet, so this is the view that we need to have. Like people, when people are there, okay, he himself is like this, and he is doing so this and this and this and this, and why is he talking about this thing? And this may be good for a debate, good for gossips, good for creating smartness, but it's in reality, in the real world, in terms of significant actions, it doesn't mean anything. But unfortunately, these things are very popular. They can get more views or the rating in the media or things like that. But it is not that you have to be perfect and then you talk about it. It's not necessary. You are willing to become uh, closer to nature, willing to come out of the problem, you can definitely talk about the problem. Or you want to offer the solution of, because you yourself have been into the problem, I feel you can be more expert and you can be the real expert of how to come out of the problem or how to prevent others getting into this problem. You can be the person, like take whatever example it can be. It's but what people expect is that so one who has been who had a life of certain indisciplines cannot be a person who can guide and talk about the disciplines. So people expect someone like born with like ultimate disciplines has to talk about it. So it's not like that. So let's not keep ourselves, this is happening to the people that they hold themselves from talking, or they hold themselves from taking little steps. You know they People around us expect us to go in the same trajectory like we have been moving. Like if we want to turn back and take little good steps, they're not happy. Do you know that? Yeah. So they want to, if you have been indisciplined in your life, or if you have been waking up late in your life, like small little things, they assume that you are like that, and it is like that, and you will not turn around your life like that. So it is not so. So it's okay to talk about the problems when you're still into the problems. But yeah, when you start talking about it, but one important thing is that you becoming true to your problems. So when you are really becoming true to the problems that you are already into, you start moving away from the problems. So that is something definitely going to happen. Yeah, it is not about like just for the sake of talking or showing off, you are doing something, and then within yourself you're a mess. Like, if that is though, that is going to be a big problem, not for the others, but for your own self. It is self destruction in the car, but only. So I hope we will not do that. Yeah, let's take up the step